Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 3rd, 2022 Board of Directors for the Santa Barbara Metropolitan Transit District. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call of the board members?
Good morning. Chair Davis.
Here, present.
Vice Chair Dave Tabor.
Here.
Secretary Jen Lemberger.
Present.
Director Chuck McQuarrie. Hassan.
Yeah, he's there.
Okay. Director Paula Parodi.
I'm here.
And Director Arjun Sarkar.
Present.
Great. We have a full board. We have a quorum. Could I have the report posting the regarding posting of the agenda, please?
The agenda was posted on Friday, April 29th, 2022 at MTD's administrative office, mailed and emailed to those on the agenda list, and posted on MTD's website.
Thank you very much. That takes us to item 4. This is the status report on the COVID-19 state of emergency. Staff is requesting that we reconsider the circumstances and make the necessary findings to continue to meet virtually. Madam Clerk, do I have anyone who wishes to speak on this item?
I see no public comments.
Okay, so any questions or comments, or do I have a motion for staff recommendations making the findings so that we can meet virtually?
Motion to approve, Chair.
Motion by Director Parodi. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, I will do the roll call on this one. Director Sarkar.
Aye.
Director Parodi.
Aye.
Director McQuarrie.
Yes.
Director Lemberger.
Aye.
Vice Chair Tabor. Vice Chair Tabor, going once, going twice. We will go to Chair Davis, who votes yes. So we have 5-0 with Mr. Tabor at the current time not voting. But the motion does pass. That will take us on to the consent calendar. Item 5 is the approval of the prior minutes for the meeting of April 5th, 2022. The item 6 is the cash reports for the dates of March 26th through April 8th, 2022, and another period of April 9th through April 22nd, 2022. Any questions or comments on either of those two items before I look for a motion?
Chair, I need to abstain from minutes. I was
Okay.
not present.
Good, thank you very much for that. We'll note that.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. McCord.
Under the cash report, cash investments, the money market account dropped over $1 million. And I was just wondering why the significant drop.
Mr. Estrada?
Yes, I'll have to get back to you with a specific answer. I have to look at the details, but likely we made a significant capital payment on one of the projects, but I'll have to confirm which one for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the consent calendar? Okay, I'm going to go ahead.
Actually, I just had a quick question on the Measure A transfer. It was 80 cents on under the money market heading there. I just want to make sure that was correct.
Apologies, one moment. Which page was that on? Or which
It was, let's see, it would be on the March 26th through the April 8th on the first page after the past minutes.
Got it. Yeah, I'll confirm that for you. It probably has to do with interest, but I'll verify that.
Got it. Okay.
Probably something that was maybe rounded off in the last transfer, and then when they were reconciling, they realized they missed the 80 cents, but
Yeah,
I'll
no
verify
problem.
for you.
No problem.
Okay. No other questions. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
And the Director Tabor, is there a second?
Second.
Who did that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, I'll second.
Chuck seconded. Director McCrory seconded it. Okay, we'll do a roll call, and Paula, you vote yes, but I'm going to note we'll note your abstention on item 1.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Sarkar,
Aye.
Director Prodi,
Aye.
Director McCrory,
Aye.
Director Lemberger,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tabor,
Yes.
Chair Davis votes yes, so the vote is 5-0-1 with 1 abstention. Director Prodi on the minutes, 6-0 on the cash report. Concluding the consent calendar takes us right to the public comment. Anybody wishing to speak under public comment for items within our purview of the MTD board, but not on today's agenda. Madam Clerk, anyone wishing to speak or raising their hand at this time?
I don't have any hands raised or comments.
Excellent. It will take us to our first administrative item. This is temporary service reduction update and service plan for fiscal year 2023. While there's an update, they're also recommending the board approve the proposed service levels for the coming year at 186,179 revenue hours. Mr. Estrada?
Thank you, Chair Davis. I'm going to hand this off to Ms. Blackberry, our Planning and Marketing Manager, to update you on the temporary service reduction that we implemented as a result of the labor shortage, and also our recommendation for the annual service plan, essentially service levels to be implemented, or at least authorization for it for August. With that, Hillary, it's all yours.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and Board, good to be with you today. I'm going to give an update on where we've been the past few weeks and hopefully where we're headed into August. So just as an overview, this happened 2 years ago too, which is always interesting, right? To repeat ourselves. And I remember in 2020, I think it was March 14th or 15th, came to the board, presented on our proposed service plan, and then lockdown happened a few days later, and we had to pivot and change what we did. This year, we had the service plan cooked up. The idea was to just do status quo through August. We knew we couldn't bring back any service right away due to our workforce shortage with bus operators. But it became apparent pretty quickly that the level of service that we had just weren't sustainable for the workforce that we had. And so we, in the planning department, worked to come up with some service reductions, the overall goal being target the number of full-time runs needed to do the work. Basically, full-time runs equaling people, if you think of it kind of as an FTE situation. And so we, I believe, announced it on the 4th or 5th of April that we'd be going into these reductions as of April 25th. They gave us time to print a new book and get the word out in advance. Again, the point of this was to improve system reliability. Since really about December, we had to cancel trips here and there. In January, in the Omicron surge, it got particularly sort of significant, I would say, where it was really affecting our service and the reliability of folks not knowing if their bus was going to be canceled or not, and us trying to communicate as best we can, while dispatch was up to the last minute trying to cover those trips. So what does this reduction reflect? It's approximately 12.9% reduction in revenue hours. That's right now in this moment. Obviously, as we go into summer, there's fewer school boosters, there's fewer, some other service would naturally reduce with relation to the university and the community college. But in this moment, it's about a 12.9% reduction. Like I said, we were really focused on the number of full-time runs and seeing how we could focus on headways and then other lines focused on ridership. We know it's difficult at a time when gas prices are rising and generally more people are taking the bus to pull back on service, but we know it's something that we have to do. So I'm just gonna I'm not gonna drill down too hard into any of these. I'm happy to answer any questions about this, but this is the summary of temporary service reductions. There's 3 slides of this, so just to make it clear, the whole system, our whole region is really sharing the pain. We spread it out, in ways that we didn't want to pick on any one community, but had to focus on where we could find those hours of time that added up to more workforce. So the lines 1 and 2, for weekday PM peak, they had 10-minute headways for a couple of hours. We reduced that down to 15 minutes. So that's throughout most of the day, 15-minute headways. Still some of the best service we have in our system. Line 3 and 4 and 7, we did not, and 17, as you'll see on the next slide, we did not reduce service. Those services run every 30 to 35 minutes, and it was going to be really difficult to cut any more on that. And all these lines serve important parts of our service, but we made the call on those that we would not need to reduce service on those. Line 5, we did reduce the span of service and frequency on weekdays. The line 5 is really kind of running on a Saturday level of service, but adjusted to weekday traffic. So as we went into this, we were looking at what are some lines that maybe we would put down to a Saturday level of service. But of course, traffic on a Tuesday is different than traffic on a Saturday. And so that had to be adjusted on most lines. The line 6 and 11, generally in AM and PM peak, they have a combined headway of every 10 minutes, right? Because between the transit center and Hollister and Fairview, they really have the same route. And so they have that combined of every 10 minutes, which means each one is every 20 minutes. That got reduced down to 15. So each one's coming every 30 minutes in those peak periods, and the rest is held the same. Like I said, line 7, no reduction. The 10 remains suspended. Just talked about the line 11. Line 12X is operating on Saturday service levels. We actually didn't need to adjust the schedule. So it truly is a Monday through Saturday schedule and then a Sunday. The 14, we reduced frequency on weekdays. We basically brought the 14 to a Saturday schedule and then put in some earlier morning peak trips that we know are very vital and sort of lifeline service for folks getting to work in Montecito. So we added some in there. The span of service didn't change on the 14. The 15X, we moved to a limited service schedule. It was already pretty limited, but this just changed the span of service. So it ends in the 5 o'clock hour instead of the 7 o'clock hour. Line 16, that's the only service that we have temporarily suspended altogether. Had about a month left on it before summer. There's several other ways to get to City College from downtown. And this one is the only one that goes into West Campus, but that's currently suspended. The 17, which is interlined with the 4, no reduction in service. The line 20 to Carpinteria, we had what we called super peak, 15-minute service in one direction in the morning, one direction in the evening. We've stripped that out, so it's every 30 minutes. And then midday headways were reduced from 40 minutes to every hour. Line 23 and 25, actually, no change to headways. That's kind of hourly service as it is. We had to make some small changes to the weekday schedule times on both those lines, not even at every time point, but some tiny, 2-3 minute changes because those are interlined with the 6 and 11. And we needed that to to kind of work together. Line 24X, reduce frequency on weekdays. It's essentially pulled it back to Saturday service, but then added some peak times in the AM and PM, just some round trip 24s, because we know that's the demand on that line is very high. Line 27, not changing. It's been operating on that UCSB out schedule since, well, about 2 years ago. Line 28 was on 18-minute headways. Now we've got it down to 36 minutes, and that's one intrepid articulated bus out there doing the work. And then the services that have been suspended for a while, downtown waterfront shuttle, seaside, crosstown, those all stay suspended. And then the booster services for junior highs and high schools are untouched. So how do we get the word out, right? This is obviously not a normal time of year for us to be doing service changes. So we really pushed to get the word out. We had flyers posted. This is an image of the flyer at all affected bus stops, had that QR code so people could go online even before the new schedule was printed. The PDF was on the website so people could see what those timetables look like. We had interior car cards in the buses with essentially the same information. We had lots of bilingual social media press releases. We got a lot of coverage about this, which I think really helped. Our email newsletter, website. We went to our website, had a little splash that popped up. You couldn't get away from these changes. Did an Instagram live, and then in person, Santa Barbara and Ivy Earth Days, which was just 2 days before the reductions went into effect. But that was actually when I knew, I think we had done a good job getting the word out, because I would ask people when they came up, especially in Isla Vista, are you aware of our temporary service reductions? And maybe one person said they didn't know. And so everybody had heard about it one way or another, which is good, because that's a big concern of mine, that people know what's going to happen. So that is how it went. And yeah, are there any questions about those changes or any of that?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
For Carpinteria, timely transfers are really critical. And I was wondering, have you tweaked the transfers so that we don't have a Carpinteria bus getting there 1 minute after, say, the 24X is left? I mean, if we had occasion to have any of those that are missing by about a minute or two, have those been tweaked at all to avoid that?
Truly in this round, we did not, focus on connections. We really hope for this to be a temporary service reduction. That said, we did, and specifically Mark Clyde in our planning department had to essentially rebuild the whole thing, right, on almost all these lines. And so, a lot of that stuff got laid down sort of on an individual basis. So I can check and see what, how that all connects. Obviously, people coming into town from the 20 take a wide range of things. And yeah, I have to check about that. I doubt that it's a 1 minute difference. And we do always encourage folks to, because most of this stuff is pretty clock face at the transit center. So obviously, if people are seeing that their bus is leaving at the same time the 20's arriving, we encourage them to ask the driver to radio ahead, and it happens dozens of times a day, and the driver will hold and wait for those passengers to transfer.
Okay, thank you.
Director Perotti, Paula.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if this is the correct time to bring this up or not, but I'm just going to ask you, Hillary. Moving forward, not at this point in time, we're making reductions, but moving forward, has there been any conversation? I know I've heard from the general manager at Bacara several times wanting, to, some of his staff get off late at night, and wondering if there was any movement in the future of having something that comes a little closer to, he's worried about, them walking in the dark. The lights are not that great there. And I'm wondering if, or will the curb to curb van pilot program, will that help with that? Or are we looking into that at all? And have you heard from Bacara? Because they certainly have reached out to me a few times.
Great question. We have. I haven't had a chance to talk to someone specifically, but I believe General Manager Estrada has. Just from my perspective of what service would best serve that, that the 25 is the one that comes the closest. But you're right. It basically stops at Sandpiper and then turns on Cathedral Oaks. The name of the game, just the geography in that direction, right? It's really the end of the line out there. And so we haven't gamed out all the possibilities, in a significant way, but the bus would need a place to turn around is the short answer, right? I'm pretty familiar with those areas down there, and there's not any obvious place that exists at this point. We don't like to really mix in parking lots, put buses in parking lots, and these are 40-foot buses that go down here. The Haskell's beach area, that's closer at least to Bacara. I know people take 25 to get to Haskell's. I think, if some kind of effective bus turnaround could be devised there, that's where I would recommend that we turn around, and since that's sort of a public area, but we have to do our due diligence. I don't know if Jerry has anything to add on that.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit of time since I've had a conversation with anyone from Bacara. I think it's well over a year. But that, I think Hillary hit it on the nail on the head. That's exactly what it came down to in those conversations, is how do you turn the bus around if you go any further down there? So I think that's where we left it with them, was, we'll have a discussion with you, but that's our primary concern that would need to be addressed. And I don't recall hearing back from them since that last conversation, well over a year ago.
Could we, just real quick, could we use a smaller bus? Could we, would the vans, the smaller vans that we purchased, would that work for that area or not? He was just expressing concern because he does have quite a few employees that get off late at night and have to walk up the hill and over to Hollister to catch a bus.
Good question. The way that our long-awaited microtransit project is designed doesn't go to that area. What I would say about why I think the best bet for the riders and for the workers would be to extend the 25 down there is because most people aren't just going around that area, right? Like probably most people who work at Bacara don't live in the adjacent neighborhood, right? And so, and that's kind of what microtransit is for. The great thing about the 25 is that, it always turns into like a 6, right? And so that takes you further. It takes you the whole Hollister State corridor to get people to places where they need to go or where they can transfer to something else to get home. The 25 right now ends in this late 6 o'clock hour from that area. So I don't know how late folks are getting let off, but it's probably later. There's more, in the 6 o'clock hour heading in that direction. On the way back in, it goes much later into, I think, 11 o'clock hour. So there are buses heading that way. So I would say from a van perspective, it wouldn't get people far. I don't think it would be as useful in that area because we want to really give people good service to get them where they ultimately need to go. But yeah, Jerry had something.
Sure.
Yeah, I do recall the conversation I had did extend into, obviously the most efficient thing we could do or the most efficient thing that they could do is actually shuttle their employees to the bus stop. And we could have discussions about improving lighting and, safety at that stuff if there's any concerns about that. So that's where we were really pushing for. And then secondary is, okay, look, if we do deviate the existing service down a little bit further, get them a little bit closer for you, then we need somewhere to turn around. So ideally, that would make the most sense. And I haven't heard back from them, but if they could, we'd be happy to work with them, but it would be helpful if maybe they could help get the employees to the bus stop just up the road a little bit, or improve the lighting along that path.
Yeah, and a good chunk of that roadway it belongs to them. It's in their property. We just kind of found that out. We figured that out. So, okay. Thank you.
I'm happy to work with anyone, and if there's any city staff that we can work with to brainstorm as far as the approach up to the private road, and be happy to do that, because yes, that's definitely a gap.
Thank you.
Other questions at this point before Hillary moves on? Hillary, just really briefly, you've had a week? Any feedback and or issues that have popped up in that week?
It's been pretty okay. We did get a petition from some folks, unfortunately, after we already put it into place, but about early morning trips on the 12X being eliminated, because now it doesn't start until the 8 o'clock hour. We had also heard in advance of the change, people concerned about sort of how late the 24X starts. It is a concern of mine as well, and it's something that actually on this slide, we are monitoring these loads and rider input to see if, as we hopefully get workforce levels up, if we have people who are, looking for work to do, right, folks on the extra board or whatever, some boosting that maybe we could do to put additional things out there, or throw another maybe round trip 1224 on. So those are things I've got a list on my desk that I'm making, and hopefully we see that coming back. We're aggressively recruiting for bus operators, that continues, but the goal here, right, is that we provide more reliability. Can we say that there will never be a trip canceled under this service? We can't say that. But certainly less than there were before. And really shout out to our operations folks and our dispatchers and our operations manager, who I know does absolutely everything they can to cover anything that might be open.
Well, shout out to you guys for getting the word out, because it was out. So thank you. You did a really great job in the public noticing in this regard. Thank you. You want to continue? Sure.
So this, but again, this is kind of deja vu all over again, where we were a couple years ago. And normally we'd be coming to you in this meeting and saying, this is exactly what's going to be in our, we're proposing to be in our August service changes, and these are the exact, on-time performance changes, or any kind of routing, whatever. And the answer is, it depends, right? And so whatever it is will go into effect Monday, August 15th. It's a broken record at this point, but service levels will obviously be dependent on workforce availability. The thing about our process, right, is that we have to work, especially for August, you have to work a couple months in advance. And so even if, a bunch of bus drivers streamed in to our ranks in July, we kind of have to make the call beforehand about what our service levels will be. So from a sort of planning, and budgeting perspective, we would like to carry over that sort of recommendation of the revenue hours, 186,179 thereabouts. That is service levels that were just before our reduction. Okay, so obviously those are things we'd like to get back up to in that fiscal year. Obviously we'd like to go beyond, but it remains to be seen if we can. And so as we get closer, we'll probably recommend a phased approach of what to bring back when we're able. So one thing that kind of helps us and helped us last year was when the university and the college came back in person was, K through 12 comes back middle of August, then city colleges usually a week later, then UCSB is at the end of September. And so those things get stepped up at that time. That's my hope. But we're going to really watch these things, and over the next couple of weeks really is really what we have to decide and then start building that bid. One thing I mentioned at the meeting when I talked about this before, and this is not dependent on workforce, unlike so many things, which is a proposed routing change on the line 17. This is the current routing around here where the letter B is. On the outbound, the bus, it goes down Carrillo and then left on San Andreas, left on Cannon Bernardino, right on San Pasqual. On the inbound, it goes up San Pasqual all the way to Carrillo, turns right, serves a stop, and heads downtown. The recommendation is barely, almost imperceptible between these two, but operationally it'll actually make a big difference. So on the inbound, it'll remain the same using San Andreas, but on the outbound, it's just going to go the reverse, which is nice for maps and nice for operationally. This intersection, if you've been through it lately, it might be all the way done. They've been finishing up the little bits and pieces. It'll have a, I haven't been there through there in a few weeks, but there will be a protected left turn lane if there's not already, turning onto San Andreas, which is a big deal, really going to help us operationally. But the change that we're making to turn right, there's also what they call a pork chop island there now, which makes for much easier right turns. And it'll allow the bus to pull in parallel with this stop, which has been not impossible, but takes a little more skill to make this very sharp, acute angle to then pull right into this stop. So any opportunity we have to make things easier operationally and smoother, we will. As far as outreach for this, since it's a very specific little change, it doesn't move any bus stops. Really all it means is this block of San Pasqual used to have a bus going on it. It won't anymore. This block of San Andreas already has a bus going in one direction. It'll just have a bus going another. So no new stops, no moved stops, no eliminated stops. Just the same old thing, just a slight routing change in one direction for one block. So that is a change that we are recommending to put in place for August. I just said all of these things, but I want to do targeted outreach. So signs in the neighborhood, outreach specific to this line, and we can, make sure people know what's happening. With that, I will stop sharing and happy to take any questions.
I have a question. With regard to overtime, is that being heavily utilized to make pullout? And if it is, maybe this is for operations, what's it do to the morale of the bus drivers? Just a general question.
You're muted,
I think
Chair.
Chair's throwing it back to me. I'll take this question.
You mean my lips were moving, but nothing was happening?
I think I
Nothing
ran
new.
them.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Director McQuarrie. The morale is one of the top of the list for us, obviously, the concern. It's why we made, one of the biggest reasons why we made the decision we made to make the reduction. I mean, first of all, you got to be reliable for the community and the people you serve. They have to be able to count on the schedule, but we also always have to monitor the, the state of the workforce. And that was a significant factor in this decision. It wasn't an easy one to reduce by over 12% like that, but it's something we felt we needed to do.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone's happy.
We're trying.
Yeah. Other questions at this?
Just a quick comment. When you were doing your presentation, and I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciated that Instagram live that you did. I thought that was a really good push out.
Great. Yeah, I'll try anything once. And so I think it's something we could do again to get the word out. And we'll be doing some of that with our short range transit plan, which we're going to kick off the next round this Thursday. So we had a little break on that, focusing on the outreach for the temporary reductions. And now we'll be moving into the next phase of the future. So it's a little bit of whiplash, but we'll adapt.
Great.
It definitely came through my feed.
Good.
Great. Other questions? One thing I would just think, maybe in the general manager's report, each month you can kind of give us at least a quick update as to, are there any issues here, Jerry, as we go forward?
Will do.
That'd be great. Okay. Is there any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
I have none.
Okay. So we do have a recommendation to approve the proposed service levels for the next year at 186,139 revenue hours. Is there a motion to that effect?
So move.
Mr. McCrory made a motion, and a second.
I'll second that.
Director Sarkar, very good. We will start with you, Arjun. Director Sarkar.
Aye.
Director Perotti.
Aye.
Director McCrory.
Aye.
Director Lemberger.
Aye.
Vice Chair Tabor.
Yes.
I vote yes. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Blackerby, for a good presentation.
Thank you
And
all.
good luck and just keeping it balanced as we go forward. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to item 9. This is to modify the advance authority to execute renewable diesel fuel contract. Mr. Estrada, you want to do this item or open it up?
I'm going to offer this up to our interim procurement officer, Ms. Valerie White, to walk you through the staff report and the staff recommendation. Valerie?
Great. Good morning, Ms. White.
Good morning. Good morning, board members. So last September, I hopped on this call and explained our current renewable diesel fuel contract terms this year. Staff requested advance authority for the general manager to accept new fuel bids up to $3 per gallon. However, the fuel and energy markets have been highly volatile. Even the high price of crude oil has found its way to affect all energy markets, including renewable diesel. Right now, when staff looks at the future commodities trading to determine what a one-year contract will look like, it indicates bids are going to come in over that $3 mark. If you look in the formal staff report included in the agenda packet before you, I attempted to chart out the futures prices over the next year, and that shows the mean contract price per gallon should come in close to $3.22. That's staff's independent cost estimate. However, the reality is the general manager may need the advance authority from the board to accept bid prices up to $3.82 per gallon. This elevated number is still fair and reasonable and provides MTD protection from any unforeseen spikes before bids are received. Also, keep in mind when I'm saying $3.82 per gallon, that's the price before the applicable taxes and fees, but it does include the fuel delivery to MTD. So now I have the invitation for bids for renewable diesel ready to be issued to 4 pre-qualified firms. They've already accepted MTD's master agreement terms as well. So I'm here to present the staff recommendation to modify the general manager's advance authority to accept bids from the $3 to $3.82. Basically, this advance authority is the most efficient way for MTD to immediately accept the lowest responsive and responsible price. Because the cost of fuel changes each day, suppliers will not hold that fixed pricing long enough for staff to return the board for approvals. So if all the bids exceed the maximum approved price, staff will then re-strategize and present to you alternative fuel purchasing methods, such as cooperative purchasing and piggybacking opportunity. So there is a contingency plan here. But first, today's action item. Let me just turn this over to questions. If you have any now, I'm ready.
Great, thank you for the presentation. Questions for Ms. White here? Don't all jump in because it takes your breath away just to see what's happening in the fuel market. Mr. Estrada.
Yeah, quickly on the recommendation, I would like to just tweak the final bullet point to be execute a fixed price contract with the base period of up to 1 year beginning July 1st, 2022. Just to give me a little bit more flexibility. Historically, there have been times where we were in a volatile market like this where we felt the prices were higher and potentially could come down, and we might enter into a 6-month rather than 1 year. So we may go with these groups and do a 6-month and option for another 6. I just want to keep our flexibility open because things are so volatile.
Thank you.
Okay. There are no questions from the board. Ms. Clerk, is there anyone from the public?
None at this time.
Great, okay. So we're back to the board. The recommendation is to modify the advance authority. Motion would be to do that pursuant to staff's recommendations, including Mr. Estrada's amendment. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Okay. Director Tabor made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Chair. Perotti.
Director Perotti made the second, and I will do a roll call at this time. And that's why thank you for the presentation. It was quite inclusive. Director Sarkar.
Aye.
Director Perotti.
Aye.
Director McCory.
Aye.
Director Limburger.
Aye.
Vice Chair Tabor.
Yes.
Chair David votes yes. Motion passes unanimously. And Mr. Estrada, good luck out there in the market.
Yeah,
Really?
I would like to quickly say we're currently paying $1.69 a gallon, which is amazing. That contract has been honored and will continue. They will continue to honor it through June 30th. But the increase will definitely be reflected when we bring the draft budget to you in June for next year.
I'm already anticipating.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you again. That's why. We'll move on to the next item, which would be item 10. This is a commercial property insurance renewal effective May 24th, 2022. And Mr. Estrada.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Mr. Cortez, our risk manager, to handle the staff's presentation on the next 2 agenda items. Raphael, it's all yours.
Good morning, Terry.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair Davis. Good morning, members of the board. So here we go. As far as property coverage, I'm pleased to present the 2022-2023 commercial property insurance policy renewal. MTD's risk department is making the recommendation to proceed with the renewal. I would like to highlight the following. Risk is recommending to keep coverage with Nationwide Insurance. Nationwide Insurance Company has an AM Best rating of A+ superior. In today's extremely hard property market, with the help of Bob Batch at Brown & Brown Insurance, we're pleased to present a renewal quote with a reduction in premiums of about roughly 6.5% from the expiring policy. Policy will continue to provide coverage for all MTD locations. As far as in closing, this is an action item, and MTD's risk department is making the recommendation to the board to approve the renewal of the commercial property insurance. This time, I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Great. Questions for the board? I have more questions on the next item. Okay, Madam Clerk, anyone wishing to speak on this?
No comments.
Okay, great. We're back to the board with no questions. Is there a motion? Staff's recommendation is approved to bind with Nationwide.
Motion to approve, Chair Perotti.
Okay, motion by Director Perotti. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Director Sarkar, and we'll start with you, Arjun. On the vote, Director Sarkar,
Yes.
Director Prodi,
Aye.
Director McQuarrie,
Aye.
Director Limburger,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tabor.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, Mr. Cortez, we're on to the next item.
On to the next one. Earthquake coverage. The 2022-23 earthquake insurance policy renewal. MTD's Risk Department again is making the recommendation to proceed with this renewal. Highlighting the following: coverage fully insures all of MTD's locations to include the administrative building, maintenance building, transit center, overpass for a total insurable value of $12,295,199 per occurrence in policy term aggregate. Pricing for renewal on this policy has increased opposed to our property coverage by about 10% from our expiring policy. With the help of Mr. Fatch, we had 4 other options that were explored through other carriers, and underwriters at Lloyd's continues to offer a better package as far as policy premium and deductible. So it was the best overall that we could find. Earthquake pricing continues to go up with the hard property market. Our recommendation is to renew with Catalyst Risk, Lloyd's of London, and the syndication of companies quoting coverage under the underwriting program. This continues to be the most effective, cost-effective option for MTD. This is also an action item, and MTD's Risk Department is making the recommendation to the board to approve the renewal of the earthquake insurance policy. Any questions, I am more than happy to answer as well.
Okay, very good. To the board for questions. Director McQuarrie.
Yes, with the increased activity out at Overpass, has that had an effect on our earthquake coverage?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The increased activity on Overpass.
We're opening up Terminal 2. Does that change our liability or our insurance on that particular property?
It has not done so yet because it hasn't opened. Until it opens, then we will definitely see some type of increase.
Wow.
Barry, what's our schedule on opening within it's past a year? This is binding for a year.
Oh, you're a few years out. We're still in the permitting process to get started. So ideally we'd go out for construction contracts later this year. So after that, 12, 18 months.
And to add to that question, the reason why it would increase is with the renovation of the site, the value of the building is going to increase. And so therefore insurance would also increase.
Yep. Other questions?
The projection, is the projection to continue to increase in these significant amounts? I mean, or will it level out at some point?
For the past 3 years, we've been experiencing trends that are increasing, and that's due to the demand of coverage for earthquake coverage. Because the demand is outpacing supply for earthquake insurance, of course, insurance continues to be difficult. There's times too where some insurance carriers won't even provide a quote. So we're expecting to start to see it trend down and even out. But like I said, it's been 3 years. Hopefully we'll start to see some type of change.
Okay, any other questions? If not, Madam Clerk, is anyone wishing to speak from the public?
No comments.
No comments in that regard. And we're looking for a motion. This is to bind and
One
renew.
question first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
What's our deductible on this?
Our deductible is 5%.
And that's 5% of.
A lot of money.
Yeah. So even though we have earthquake insurance, we would be stuck with a hefty bill. I guess that's life.
In California, you betcha. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, where was I? I think I was calling for see if there was a motion to bind earthquake insurance with Lloyd's of London as recommended by staff.
I'll move to on that.
Director Sarkar made the motion. Director Lemberger made the second. Okay, I'm going to start at the top again. Director Sarkar,
Yes.
Director Perotti,
Aye.
Director McQuarrie,
Aye.
Director Lemberger,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tabor.
Yes.
I vote yes. That motion passes unanimously. Mr. Cortez, thank you for the good news. Thank you for the bad news. But
Thank you all so much. Pleasure seeing you all.
okay, thank you again. Let's see, that jumps right then into General Manager's report. Mr. Estrada.
Yes, as you have my written report, happy to answer any questions you might have regarding any of the topics included. I think, from things I'd like to highlight is, we are investing in our employees. You see, we're putting some training into our mechanics group. That's really important for us, and we're excited about that opportunity, getting that going again. Also, some of our capital projects, there are challenges. We've run into one here at Terminal 1, but we're working through it with the Stantec group. And at the same time, that's a project that is dependent on Southern California Edison completing their process, getting through the permit process, and we're still waiting on them as well. So while we have our challenges, we're working through the item that I've indicated there. Edison's working through theirs as well, but it is a high priority because we have buses on order, and we want them delivered at some point. We'll need to be able to charge them. So the Terminal 1 project is one that's moved up higher on the list for me as far as pushing on to make sure we meet those challenges and timelines.
Chair, I had one question. I don't know if we can do it offline. There was a note of the change in flood mapping for Terminal 1. How serious was that?
Significant.
Yeah?
Frankly, yeah. I don't get into the details. A mistake was made, not by MTD or its contractor necessarily, but the bottom line is we need to make adjustments. The levels or the essentially what's expected going forward is greater than what it was before, and we have to adapt. But we've talked about this when we went through the facilities master plan that, this facility here, Terminal 1, where we're located, has a number of challenges. And it's why Terminal 2 is so important to MTD. So while there's additional expense in opening up a second facility, I think it's critical, and this just kind of highlights it.
You probably know, I was on the city sea level rise committee, and what it does also, you have sea level rise, but what it does is also raises the groundwater, which then makes the current flooding worse. And so Terminal 1, essentially, if we're in a serious time, it'll be out of commission totally. Terminal 2 would have to be essentially where you're operating from during any kind of major flood, right?
That's very possible in a major flood. So yeah, again, all the more reason to get Terminal 2 up and running and then moving forward with that project.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you for the brief comment. Okay. Any questions for Jerry at this point other than that? Not seeing any. Item 13, other business reports. Anybody want to speak on any other items? Anything going on at the university, Arden? No. Okay. That will move right along here, guys. It's pretty good for a loaded agenda. Item 14 is a recess to closed session conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representatives, MTD General Manager Estrada and Chief Operating Officer Mary Gregg. The employee organization to be discussed, International Brotherhood of Teamsters Union Local 186. We have a second item. Item 15 is a recess to closed session on real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property is 4678 Carial 149 North San Antonio Road. Agency negotiators, General Manager Jerry Estrada, District Outside Counsel Graham Lyons. Negotiating partners, the Con Ann Group. Under negotiation is the price and terms of payment. Madam Clerk, looking to you to see if there's anyone who wishes to speak on either of those two items before we recess to close session.
I have no comments.
No public comment at this time. We will stand in recess to close session and re-adjourn after that. Okay. Jerry, it's up to you to close out the meeting for now.
Will do.
We'll take a 3-minute break. 3 or 4 minute break.
Thank you.